Wouldn't use it like that. So, for example, I might turn around and be like, so, I was a part of this membership team. It was a specific percentage of increase in sales during my duration of time there. That's me saying, hey, I'm great at what I do and this is the uptake and the increase that we saw. But it's all status. It's all figures based that you can turn around and, that's fact checkable.
I started volunteering.
It's all about who you know in sport.
Am I going to be calling the last 10 seconds of the grand final?
You can connect with the interviewer. The hand goes up when they've got to make a decision.
Having a network is one of the most important things you can do.
I didn't necessarily follow my passion. I followed my curiosity.
Once you've worked in sport, there's no going back.
And then lo and behold, before I left, I got offered 2.
Hello and welcome to the Sports Grad Podcast, the ultimate guide to make it in the sports industry. Brought to you by Deakin University, home to the world's #1 sports science school. My name is Ruben Williams. I'm the founder of Sports Grad, where we have helped people land 765 roles in the sports industry. This week, a quick shout out goes to Justin Ware, who has just landed a marketing manager position at Drummond Golf. So well done to you, Justin, a very good member of the cohort 3 of the Sports Grad Method program. Now, if you are new to the podcast, on here, I chat with people in the sports industry and find out how the hell did you get hired into your dream job in sport. So if you want to know what people are doing to break into the sports industry and to grow within the industry once they're there, hit subscribe to the pod. Or if you want even more insights from our guests and explore the full back catalogue of over 300 jobs in sport that we've chatted with, you can subscribe to our newsletter at sportsgrad.com.au/newsletter. All right. Coming up on the show today is Maddison Nutting, the corporate sales executive at the Brisbane Lions. Maddison's role involves crafting high-value membership experiences, managing corporate hospitality, and connecting fans to the game that they love. She works across their elite AFL and AFLW teams to engage members with innovative campaigns, and her work brings together the entire Brisbane Lions community. Maddison's journey is extremely diverse, with experiences spanning from music to pet travel and then to sport, where she's worked at Cricket Australia, the Carlton Football Club, and now the mighty Brisbane Lions. So, if you are dreaming of a career in sport, Maddison's story is going to help you make the right career move at every junction, given the amount of changes and pivots she has made, but also very much help you how to sell yourself effectively along the way so you can get the roles that you want. And if you feel like sales is for you, then you're going to enjoy learning about that role inside an AFL club. Now, we recorded this on the Friday before the grand final, so she's done an exceptional job to find time for a chat during a very busy grand final week where, of course, the Brisbane Lions are about to take on the Geelong Cats. So enjoy this AFL Grand Final special with Maddison Nutting. Hey guys, before we jump into the episode today, just a quick note to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Deakin University, home to the world's #1 sports science school. But whether you're into sports science, management, coaching, or business, Deakin gives you the chance to study what you love and turn it into a career. Mads, welcome to the Sports Grad Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Now, you seem to be coming down to Melbourne every year at the moment. This is your second grand final week for the AFL men's competition, I believe.
It is, yeah. So my second, obviously the Lions third in a row, but yeah, my second, which is really, really exciting.
Amazing. So what's the week look like for you?
This week, it's so hectic. I mean, it's all hands on deck. So it's a little bit different to what my weekly day-to-day role is kind of at the club. But yeah, we all just kind of pitch in to make sure that this week happens and everything kind of goes to plan. So I flew down on Wednesday evening. We had a couple of people that flew down earlier in the week, but I got in on Wednesday night, had a really quick sleep, but then was up at the crack of dawn to head down to Fitzroy Town Hall. So we're activating our Lion shop out there, which is really, really cool. It's the third year in a row we've done it out there. Mm-hmm. So, we're basically open to the public from Wednesday through to Friday and just have thousands of punters come through to get their merch in time for the game. And yeah, just sitting there all day and all there all day today and we'll be all there back out into Fitzroy and on Sunday after a hopeful win.
It is such a unique experience being able to work in grand final week and do all the different activations and whatnot. But you guys have had 3 goes at it in a row. What have you learned from the previous grand final weeks that you've brought into this week?
Yeah, it's really hard, especially being an interstate club where, we don't necessarily have a home base down here. I mean, we've just opened up our Victorian office down in Docklands, which is really exciting, but it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. So, coming down from Brizzy and bringing all of our stock and actually activating the shop and doing open trainings and that kind of thing has been a big learning curve, even from, year 2 to year 3 was really different. So upping the number of staff, bringing in, external casuals to help run the shop, and, numbers of POS machines that you've got activated and that kind of thing's really cool and different. And, even just in the lead up to the actual week itself, just the communication you send out to the supporter base, the information that they were really looking for last year, you make sure you hit it on the head pretty early so that, those questions are a little bit more reduced.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there'll be plenty more clubs coming to you in future years telling us, hey, it's our first grand final for a while. What should we do?
Exactly. But no, it's really cool. It's a lot of fun.
Amazing. Well, we love to start this show with a few quickfire questions to help the audience get to know you a little bit better. So
Beautiful.
First one for you is, what was your first ever job?
First ever job, I would have been 15, did the usual KFC. I think all of us did some kind of fast food. So yeah, mum was KFC at 16, was there for 2 years.
Amazing. And what study have you done?
So I have got 3 diplomas. So I left high school, kind of had blinkers on working the music industry. That was kind of where my passion was initially. So I've got a diploma of entertainment business management. Rolled out of that into a diploma of public relations because I was really interested in going down that marketing PR route. Did a year of that and realised that wasn't for me. I'm great at marketing things, but it just wasn't, that creative side wasn't there for me. So got that one in the back pocket, and then just recently did a diploma of leadership and management as well, just as a bit of PD.
Amazing. Well, you do have an incredible career journey, which we will get into in not too long. But your favourite sporting moment of all time?
Of all time? I would have to say, and this is very, very selfishly biased, and I probably shouldn't say it whilst I'm wearing a Lions kit, but I am a Collingwood supporter. I was born and raised Pie supporter, and the 23 grand final. It was the first grand final that I kind of watched with my mum as a sports lover. So I got really into sport. Well, I'm sure we'll get into it, but got into sport a little bit later than most people in the industry. So getting to watch a flag with my mum, we both cried our eyes out. So that was really, really special and really cool for us.
Fair enough too. And not uncommon for people working the AFL to go for a different team that they might work for.
But you know what? And especially this weekend, Lions are number one.
Absolutely. Well, even like when I was working on the T20 Women's World Cup with the New Zealand team, they played Australia in a semi-final. And I was, after spending 2 weeks on the road with New Zealand and getting to know these girls, I was like fully on board Team New Zealand. Part of me selfishly wanted to go to the World Cup final as well. But like once you get to know them too, you want the best for them.
It's the personal element. I mean, obviously, we played the Pies in the prelim last week, and I literally sat there in silence. I'm like, oh, I really want to see the Pies win, just from like a selfish, like personal point of view. But at the same time, you get to know the boys and you get to love and know the club, and you're just like, yeah, I really want to see us do well.
What is your favourite interview question to either ask of candidates that you are hiring or that you've been asked yourself?
Oh, I like to find anytime that I'm either working or trying to find someone to work with or applying for a job myself, I like to be asked a lot of cultural based questions. It's all well and good, I find, to talk about the nitty gritties of a resume, but learning about someone outside of the day-to-day job and finding out something where you're going to click, especially in sports, we're spending so much time together. It's not a standard 9 to 5. You go home, you don't see each other over the weekend. You're working late nights, early mornings, weekends. So things that are going to get me a little more information on someone, just personally, they're my favourites.
Yeah, and I feel like when people are preparing for an interview too, that side of preparation is often overlooked.
Yeah.
But in reality, and the former executive general manager of People and Culture at Cricket Australia fed this to me, but they're trying to answer 3 questions, and that is, number 1, can you do the job? Number 2, will you do the job? So why are you here?
Yeah.
Number 3, will you fit in with the team? So who are you? Which is equally important, and particularly in clubland as well, where it's so tight. It is incredibly important.
Yeah, and it comes down to, at the end of the day, they've looked at your resume. You've shown elements on your resume that it's like, yep, you can show me that you've used this program or you've done this before. Whereas, you don't learn too much about a candidate's personal life or personality on a bit of paper. So, yeah.
Exactly. And when you're spending more time with your colleagues and your family and your friends, then, you should look out for those different things.
Exactly.
Last one for you. If you had 30 minutes to pick the brain of anybody in the world, who would it be and why?
Oh, I would probably say someone on like the higher up end of like the Olympic Committee. The Olympics every 4 years, the biggest global sporting event, who isn't tuning into the Olympics, just kind of get a concept of how big it actually is. So I've not personally worked on any of those, Olympic or Com Games committees or anything like that. I think it would just be fascinating to learn a bit about it. And then also the concept of them having to relocate, every 4 years and how that is on, their personal lives. And, I know how much working in a clubland in an Australian-based sport can impact your personal life and your love life and all of those things. So I'd be intrigued to see how that happens on the even bigger scale.
Well, if you go back to episode 16 of the podcast, Garth Town,
Oh, yeah.
born and bred in Geelong,
Yeah.
grew up as a commercial lawyer in Melbourne,
Yeah.
worked at Landers and Rogers for many years. His next job was as a legal counsel at the International Olympic Committee.
Oh, that's so cool.
And then he's evolved in that role to now become the head of commercial games delivery.
Wow.
So
That's huge.
Garth will correct me if I'm wrong, but when I caught up with him in Paris at the Olympics last year, his role was basically showing delegations from countries interested in hosting the Olympics
Oh, so sick.
around the Olympics.
That's so cool.
So it's like, this is where this event takes place,
Yeah.
and this is where like the media center is, and this is where all the other stuff that goes into the Olympics that you'd never think
don't
about.
even comprehend it.
Exactly right. Happens. And
You don't realise that someone's got to do that job. It's just
No.
one of those jobs where it's
Yeah.
like, you work in clubland and someone's got to run the corporate side, someone's got to run the membership. You don't think about
no.
having to plan forward for who's going to host the next games in
Exactly
10,
right.
20 years' time.
And it's like a house inspection.
Yeah.
It's like, you want to buy this house? Well, let me show you all the different rooms to it. You want
Yeah.
to host an Olympics? Well, here's everything that goes into it.
you go.
But that was a while ago now, so we'll have to get Garth back on the podcast
Yeah,
to
gosh,
talk
yeah.
about his new role. But yeah, he loves SportsGrad and SportsGrad people, so
Yeah,
you should
huge.
reach out to him.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Awesome. Well, let's dive into what you're doing at the moment, and then we'd love to work backwards in terms of how you got to this role as well.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about your role at the moment and what that looks
Yeah,
like day to day?
absolutely.
Hey guys, quick one. Are you either A, dreading going back to work tomorrow, or B, on a mission to fulfill your potential and get there as quickly as possible? If so, then you need to apply for the SportsGrad Method program. The program is designed to help you get a full-time job in sport as quickly as possible, and inside it, I distill the lessons I've learned from asking over 300 people how they got a job in sport. I'm talking professionals from the AFL, Premier League, cricket, NBA, Olympics, you name it. And I've combined it with the methods that not only got me hired by Cricket Australia before graduating, but also helped me double my salary during COVID. SportsGrad has helped people land over 700 roles in sport, and this program takes the guesswork out of an industry where most people think you need to get lucky. To apply for the SportsGrad Method program, head to www.sportsgrad.com.au/program. All right, back to the episode.
So I am the corporate sales executive at the Lions. So I work in a team of 3, and essentially the core of our job is basically selling the hospitality at the Gabba. So boxes, suites, all-inclusive functions, premium reserve seating up on that level 2 section. So we on a day-to-day sell all of those for game-by-game basis. Then we also have a range of clients that are seasonally based clients. So those are ones that are locking in at the start of the year, are committing to the full 11 home games plus potential finals. Touch wood, it keeps happening. Makes it very easy to sell things when we keep doing this well. But so yeah, we sell all of those to those seasonal clients. And then from like a relationship point of view, because they are spending so much money, and a lot of them are businesses coming through with clients or businesses bringing through staff members for reward purposes, we are basically there as a point of contact if ever they have ticketing issues, if they need to order certain catering, if they want to buy merchandise for their box every week, if they want to come to the season launch, if they want to come to Best and Fairest, we're kind of there to help out with everything. And come finals as well, they want to come to a game, we make sure that they've got, the best seats in the house. So grand final as well, making sure they get the grand final ticket. So we're just kind of there to hold their hand throughout the entire year. So yeah, that's the basis of what I do now.
In terms of those premium clients, what's sort of the range of spend that they are giving to the Lions each year?
Yeah, so my clients' base come down from about 4,500 and range all the way up to about 65,000 a year. That's just for their facilities usually. On top of that, they're then paying for food and drink packages and other experiences outside of that. But that's the core range from going from an all-inclusive function for themselves as an individual all the way through to a 22-seater indoor suite.
And how many spots at the Gabba are you allowed to sell for 65 grand a year? Like, I'm guessing there's a capacity that you
Yeah.
can't just keep selling everything.
No, exactly. Yeah. So we get to a point where obviously, you know, the goal would be to have everyone buying at a full season capacity. That makes my job a lot easier. Every year, you know, I'm just hitting renew. I'm not having to go out on that grind. But at the moment, we do kind of limit it to about 120 seasonal clients, 120 to 140-ish, depending on how we're going. But yeah, then we want to retain a little bit of facility as well, so that for those odd, you know, one-game buyers that want to come to a specific game, you know, they want to come see the Dogs, they want to come see the Swans, or they really enjoy the Q Clash, we've got some facilities open for them to buy on a single-game basis as well.
And what sort of clientele are they? Are they just like rusted on like Brisbane Lions fans, or like, yeah, who are they?
Yeah, we get a really good range of people. So you've got your average Joes that, you know, going to the footy and spending a little bit of cash on the footy is, you know, their one splurge of the year. And then we go all the way through to high-end businesses, you know, your Harvey Normans and your Combanks and people like that want to bring their major clients out to experience a game of footy and kind of wine and dine them as well. So, yeah, we get some really big names through the door.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Perhaps day-to-day is not a easy question to answer because it would change so regularly, but perhaps like throughout the calendar months of a year, how might your focus change?
Yeah, so people kind of tend to ignorantly think that, you know, it gets to the end of September and we're all on holidays.
You don't have to work anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone's like, oh, so what are you doing in the off-season? I'm like, what's off-season? But, yeah, so kind of September ends and my year kind of starts from October and runs through to a September basis. So October happens and it is just the process of finalising budgets, looking at your stretch targets for the year, and you kind of start to have those catch-up calls and catch-up lunches with your clients that are your seasonal based to see what they enjoyed about the year, what they didn't. Do they want to upgrade? Do they want to downgrade? What is their 2026 or, you know, last year 2025 looking like? From then, so you're in October. November is pretty similar as well. And then in November, we do a hard on sale. So that's when our websites are all refreshed and updated. So I'm also, you know, in that October, November period, briefing things in with our marketing team to get images updated, videos and that kind of thing. November takes place, we go on sale, and that's when, you know, everything starts to fly in. We're sending out invoices to all of those seasonal clients that are renewing, and then starting those conversations with those new prospective clients. So I've been working on a wait list for next year since about June. We've had people reaching out for seasonal hospitality, so that's when I'll start hitting up all of them. And that's pretty much my, you know, November, December, go away for 2 weeks at Christmas, and then we're straight back into it in January. And then February will be our single game on sale. So essentially we stop selling those seasonal hospitality options and start selling those single games. So that's when the usual ticket on sales will happen as well for the general public. So we jump on that as well. And then March rolls around. So March through to September is just all systems go. It's selling those seasonal boxes. You know, there are a couple of games throughout the year that are a tough sell.
Yep.
So, you know, how do we fill those boxes and how are we filling those suites to ensure that, you know, we are sold out every week and we're getting the best bang for our buck as well. And yeah, so game days, you know, we're setting up the Gabba, we're putting signage into the boxes and suites, so it's not not a button and it just appears on a screen. It's literally going around and pulling out all the signs and putting them in.
Like a sign that literally says Harvey Norman and put it on the box.
Put it on the box. So we're printing them, we're cross-referencing them, we're putting records in suites, we're wristbanding clients on the door. So you know, people like to think that the corporate job is all glitz and glam and going out to dinners and doing all of that stuff. It's typically a 30,000 step day at the Gabba and you know, sweating and having to have, you know, a deodorant shower in the bathroom before the games start. So yeah, that's pretty much us for the entire year, and that will run through to September, and then finals footy kicks in, and finals is a little bit different for us as well because the AFL takes over all of the presentations of the game. So we kind of take a little bit of a step back, but being Brisbane, we're one of the few clubs that has to actually sell all of our own hospitality during finals as well. So when we host a game at the Gabba, we do everything. So typically, you know, you would just click on AFL Event Office and buy tickets, whereas we have to manually process everything. We're playing Tetris, moving people around, upgrading, downgrading. You want this, you want that. We're putting them all there. And then, finals is the exact same as a normal game for us. We're boxes, suites, doing it all. So it's nuts.
It sounds like a very wide-ranging role, and that
Yes.
it never ends, and every part of the year is as important as the other parts as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
In the time that you've worked in membership, and we'll touch on your time at Carlton as well, how have you seen the offering of AFL clubs develop? because like going way back, the first thing that AFL club could have offered is like, here's a season membership, and there's like 20 different things at all different tiers and pricing that clubs can do. What are some of the more recent sort of product offerings you've seen come together at the Lions that have been cool or interesting?
The Lions is really interesting. So we haven't shifted too much in the last couple of years just because we don't really have the capacity to at the Gabba. We're at full seasonal capacity for reserve seat members, and we're at full capacity for September members, which is essentially our grand final upgrade option. So we're really limited at the moment here with all of that. But obviously with Victoria Park, down the track and it's coming, which is really exciting. We're looking at that being an almost 60,000 capacity venue. So, that'll be when there's a lot of shifts and integrations and upgrades. And again, it's difficult being an interstate club. I found it very different. Obviously, you mentioned me being at Carlton. Carlton had a bit more flexibility being a long-standing Victorian-based club, spread across the two venues, MCG and Marvel. There was options that we could offer, whereas being, a Southeast Queensland club, Queensland's huge. It's a tough sell to sell a membership to someone in Cairns or Gladstone and places like that. So I think that'll be where a good chunk of the prospective opportunity comes for us as well in the coming years is, expanding out to those regional areas and upgrading to that bigger venue, which will be really exciting to see.
What do you think is the most critical part to being successful in your job?
No fear. Having no fear. I've got to literally cold call people. I never thought I never wanted to work a cold call job because I think they make me feel really icky, and I feel like cold calling makes a lot of people feel icky. But literally just messaging someone on LinkedIn, picking up the phone, I will find someone's phone number these days and just give them a call, or I'll flick them a cold email, be like, hey, no, you don't know me, but hey, here's the brand I work for. Let's have a chat. And, the amount of calls and people that I do actually get to speak to and that then eventuate into some kind of transactional deal, it's crazy.
Right, so direct cold outreach is probably the best channel for what you're selling.
Absolutely. Look, 9 times out of 10, someone's going to come to me when they want something, and that happens a lot of the time. But there's so many people out there that just don't realise what we can offer and what is on offer. If you don't look for it, you don't know. So, reaching out to people is, different things. Have you thought about offering this to your staff? Have you thought about offering this to your clients? So, yeah.
Like on a cold outreach day, how many calls are you going through in a 9 to 5 day?
I try not to do too many because I want to make sure that the ones that I am doing are super impactful. Yep. So I try and I'll do a lot of cold emails. So I could send, 50 to 100 out in a day, and, I might get 1 or 2 replies. That's a win for me. It's 1 or 2 more than I was going to get anyway. So, those phone calls aren't happening as quickly as, if I was in the membership team just calling old people who hadn't renewed.
Yep.
But, so we speak to people and get people out. So, but about 100-ish a day, I'd say. Just cold emails, just pulling together lists and just, bulk emailing out.
Yep. Now, we mentioned Carlton. You've performed a similar type of role in memberships there before.
Correct.
And then we moved on to the Lions. What do you think led to you being successful for the job at the Lions?
I think, again, sports is one of those ones where it is so beneficial to have someone who has already been in sports and has already worked in footy, because the systems we do use are quite intricate and quite clunky, and they're hard to learn. They take you about a year to get your head fully around.
What are the names of some of these systems?
So one we use is Arctics. So Arctics is a Ticketmaster-based system. So that's where all of your membership and ticketing for Ticketmaster-based games is run off. However, I know that's the same system that they use over in cricket. They use it in the NBA, the NBL, the NFL, the EPL. Everyone uses this system. So it's a global system that, if someone wanted to then go move into, soccer over in the UK, or they wanted to go work in the States, it's something that's going to be that transferable skill. I thought that was really beneficial for my role up at the Lions, and it also helped coming from Melbourne. That was a cheeky advantage that I probably had over a lot of the Queensland counterparts, was that I was from Melbourne and I knew footy. The pool of candidates up in Queensland is a little bit smaller. Being a Queensland rugby state, everyone loves the NRL. Everyone wants to work at the Broncos. It was a bit of a benefit that I actually knew the sport going into it.
Through your career journey, people, when they're going for certain jobs, people usually are hamstrung by like one of 3 different things. Either their online presence doesn't give them the number of opportunities that perhaps other people do get, or their relationships and the network is too small as well, that also hamstrings them. And then the third one is their ability to sell themselves or pitch themselves and understand the value that they can offer an organisation. In your career, is there any particular one of those three that you feel like you've had to work on the most?
I think all three of them, honestly. Coming in, so I only kind of worked in the sports industry. I've only worked in it since about 2019, on and off. So prior to that, I was working in pet transport. So I was in a completely different sector, had nothing to do with sports, had no interest in sports. And then just by happenstance, I had a friend who had a job going in cricket, and I was like, you know what, I'll give it a crack. So, that networking side, and then, realizing, hey, I actually really enjoyed this, and, who do I need to talk to and who do I need to get to know, whether it be in this industry or, in a totally different organisation, who's going to help me out here and doing that. And I think even when I was in uni, when I was doing my PR degree, sending out a cold email to the head of marketing at Collingwood to be like, hey, do you want to go get a coffee and have a chat? So always been big on that networking side. I work in sales, so selling myself is something that I work on every day, and it's a skill that people do have to learn, and it's something that I didn't necessarily have off the bat immediately. But having worked in sales for 10 years, I know that selling myself is just as important as selling the product. So going through and doing that as well is super important.
Yep. When you get to know a product much better, you understand what appeals to certain people and what to talk about and what not to talk about as well.
Exactly. And you do the same thing with yourself. You can pick and choose in a conversation what people want to hear. Not necessarily saying you've got to lie about it, but you're working in a sports job, and okay, am I going to talk about this specific experience I had, or am I going to speak about a different one? And how are you going to personally connect with your interviewer? I remember when I interviewed at Carlton, talking about the emotion around going to a footy game and what it meant to me. Going with my mum, and you were able to then connect with the interviewer at the time, and lo and behold, I got the job. So being able to identify what people want to hear is super, super important.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's a guy in our program called Andrew Beer who sent me his script for his career story. So one of the things that we work on is helping people craft their career story, exactly what you just mentioned there. And again, his was like, he was a Carlton fan too, from memory too, and all about going to the footy and seeing them. I'm pretty sure beat Collingwood, so which I know you won't be happy to hear.
That's all right.
But you're right, like it's such like an overlooked element of a job interview process, because coming back to what we started talking about, you're working with people, you want to be around like-minded people, and you got to have a connection to them. How do you do that? Tell your story. Was that something you practiced, or just kind of came naturally from?
I'm just a yapper. Yeah. So no, you know what? It actually came from my mum. So my mum used to sell me to people. So I'd be down at the bank I remember opening my first bank account, and she'd be talking to the bank teller about me, and this is what my daughter does, and she's amazing, and da-da. So mum gave me these skills that she's like, you need to tell people what you do and why you do it, and you're amazing. So tell people about it. And so, I'd go and have an interview, and she'd be like, did you tell them about this? So then I just was something that, she helped kind of force me to talk about. Because, I feel like in general as human beings, you don't want to talk yourself up. You don't want to sound too cocky in an interview, but there is a difference between being confident and being able to sell yourself and being cocky. So it is a fine skill to learn and to navigate, but the only way you're going to do it is by having those conversations and even talking to your friends and having them turn around to you and say, hey, you're actually really good at this. Like, talk about it more.
Yeah. So what would you say to the Lions if not, hey, I'm an amazing salesperson? Like, how would you paint that picture for them if not, using those adjectives?
Wouldn't use it like that. So, for example, I might turn around and be like, so, I was a part of this membership team. It was a specific percentage of increase in sales during my duration of time there. That's me saying, hey, I'm great at what I do, and this is the uptake and the increase that we saw. But it's all status. It's all figures based that you can turn around and, that's fact checkable.
Yep. And I think, people are smart enough these days to be able to pick up what you're putting down if you just kind of give them the information.
Exactly. You could throw a number out. No one's going to go fact check it if it's 10% or 9%, but being able to turn around and say that, you're going to get some kind of positive response from it.
Absolutely. I've noticed you popping up on LinkedIn a bit more recently.
Yes.
Is there any thought behind that, or?
Honestly, a lot of it's come from you.
Okay, thanks.
Fully transparent. No, I think it was having connected with a lot more sports grad people as well, and I've had a few people reach out to me and asking me questions about my job, and we've got a TAFE program running at the club as well. So I get a couple of the TAFEs that'll reach out to me and they're like, hey, have you got time to have a chat about this? Or, can you give me an example of this? Or I want to talk to this person, but I'm not really sure how to. And very flattering for me to get all of that, especially because, I'm 28. So, I still feel very young and in this sea of older people that are, having kids and stuff. So, I just kind of thought, I've got this platform of about, I think I'm connected to just over 500-600 people. And, I just thought if I just throw some stuff out there, it's going to stick and land for someone. And, you know, if it impacts one person or one person enjoys the conversation or is motivated to try something different, why not?
Amazing. And have some cool conversations come off the back of them?
Yeah, I mean, every conversation I have about it's really cool. Even just like walking into the office and people being like, I didn't know you did this, or you know, someone that may have moved over to the club, you know, in the last 6 months or so that didn't realise I'd moved up from Melbourne with, you know, 4 weeks notice. So, you know, just having those conversations get sparked, or, you know, meeting someone out at an event and they're like, oh, I know you from here, or I know you from here, and I've read this thing that you posted. That's really cool. So, yeah, there's been some really sick conversations.
That's really cool. I mean, I love how it changes conversation when you do catch up with people, because they're already informed.
Yeah.
They don't need to ask, how are you? It's
exactly.
like, tell me more about this cool thing that you shared.
I saw you were doing this. I saw you did that. So, yeah, it's been really, really, really cool.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people think that, you know, the only purpose of posting on LinkedIn is to look for what's next, or so that someone else can hire me as well. But as you're saying, like, it changes the conversation about yourself internally as well, which can only benefit your career progression
Well,
too.
that's it. And I mean, at the end of the day as well, it's also great for future job opportunities. I mean, you never know who's going to be reading a post, who's going to connect with, you know, you connect with someone and then a job opportunity pops up and they think of you immediately. So it doesn't hurt.
Yeah. There's another guy in our program called Lincoln Tracy who he's been working on a LinkedIn series since the start of the year, just kind of publishing his journalism work. And recently he got tapped on the shoulder by the AFL. And the person who tapped him on the shoulder, he connected with probably a year ago from about this time.
Yeah.
And then Lincoln started posting regularly. And then more recently, they reached out to him and said, hey, Lincoln, we're looking for an extra match day writer for the AFLW season. Can you do it? And one of the things I said to Lincoln was, we've been seeing everything you've been pushing out on LinkedIn. We might not like it, we might not comment on it, but we still see it.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is such an important thing for people to remember, because you, everyone's always craving like this external validation, like, please like my post, and is it doing the job that I hope it can do? When in reality, there's a lot of people just kind of lurking on there.
Yep.
And
just reading.
Exactly. But still putting yourself out there for the lurkers can lead to these
I've
opportunities.
I figured out that you can't look, I don't like looking at the likes. I don't want to know if I've got 100 likes. I don't want to know if I've got 5. I'm more impressed with the impression side of things on LinkedIn.
Yep.
So, you know, that little button that'll show you that you've got 13,000 views or 10,000 views, and that is what's more important to me than that like button these days. So
yeah, absolutely. Do you know what your most viewed post is?
Oh, I think I had one. I would have posted at the end of or middle of last year. It was my 2 years working in the AFL, this is what I've done kind of breakdown. And I think that had about 42,000 views.
Amazing.
Something crazy like that. So that was really cool.
That's awesome. For me, like the assault stuff that I've posted about in the past, that rightly so blows up.
Yep.
But from a career point of view, I remember during the World Cup in 2022, I posted a meme that the BBC memed me.
Oh, God.
So I ended up on the BBC's Twitter account holding up a sign saying, give us a public holiday when Australia qualified for the round of 16. And I just took a screenshot of that, put it up on LinkedIn, tagged Anthony Albanese. Like, that was the caption, at Anthony Albanese. And it got about 100,000 views or something like that. And I'm like, I need to stop thinking so hard about all this smart stuff and just post dumb stuff.
And those are the ones that I find, though, that do the numbers on there and that people probably like talk to me about the most. It's not the thought out, you know, drafted, redone, read over, post scheduled. It's the ones that are just those, you know, spur of the moment. This is my thought. This is what's happening. Or, you know, I think it was my 12 months at the Lions. This is what's happened. This is how many times I've heard Country Road play. And, you know, things like that. And that's the ones that do the numbers and the most people interact with and comment on, and then gets on someone else's feed, and then you get the connections from. So, yeah, thinking too hard is the downfall for a lot of people.
It also shows you've got a personality too.
Exactly.
Because if anyone's thinking about hiring you, they don't want to hire a robot.
No, and especially in sports, you know, there's so many people that are going for these jobs, especially based down in Vic. It is one of the most competitive sport markets in the country. And if the difference is between a robot and someone with a bit of flavour and personality, we all know who the clubs and leagues are going to go for. They're going to go for a bit of flavour.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to networking, what are some of your approaches to reaching the people that you want to reach?
I love a cold call, a cold email, just send the message. That is literally it. Is it if someone can't fit me into their day, that's fine. If it's just a message back saying, hey, yep, this is what I do, or XYZ, I've learned something, and then, I'm on their radar.
Yep.
I think a lot of luxury comes in my job that I do get into the room with a lot of people with working at the Lions, whether it's at a season launch, at a best and fairest, at a game even. You go to a game and you don't know who you're going to meet at that game. So I do a lot of that, and then I have a lot of friends that work in different sporting codes as well. So I've got a mate who was working in the NFL. I ended up at the NFL draft party where I saw you. So you end up there and you don't know who you're going to run into.
No, did not expect to see you there.
No. And I think I was only down there because we were playing the Saints. The Lions were playing the Saints, so I just happened to be in town that week. So I was like, this is great. I'll be there. And then I've got mates that work in Big Bash. So one of my best mates is the head of operations over at the Big Bash. And then I've got another mate who's a big dog over at SEN. So, all these different people that I kind of get those invites to little things where I'm a plus one, and then I get in the room and I just make friends. I like also going to there's a lot of women in sport summits and lunches and brunches and those kinds of things. Really fortunate that the Lions do really love putting us in front of people, especially up in Queensland. So a couple of weeks ago I was at that Women in Sports Summit and we did a big commercial day, and you're in front of people from Kojo and the Suns and the Broncos and the Titans and all these different codes, and you're rocking up in Lions gear, so people want to talk to you, which is a nice thing as well at the moment. Everyone wants to talk to the Lions. Just getting my face out anywhere and everywhere that I possibly can, and repping the brand.
Well, it sounds like you live in the dream at the moment, but let's go back to kind of not quite square one, but like the start of your professional journey, because it is unique,
yes,
to say the least.
Yes.
Where did the working journey start for you?
Yeah, so outside of, again, the hospitality that every man and his dog did, I was 19, 20, about 20 I think I was, when I got my first big kid job, as I like to say. I got a job in pet travel. So the easiest way to describe my job was that I was a pet transport.
Well, I feel like
travel
you're
agent.
leaving out a bit of information. Your former career as a creator.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. All right, let's go all the way back to that then. So at age 13.
Okay. This is where I want to talk.
Yeah, okay. We'll go all the way back. So I was 13 and I was obsessed with boy bands, as we all were. And I created a Twitter account, and I was a massive fan of One Direction. And over the course of, I think it would have been 4 years, developed a social media following of about 250,000.
Wow. What year is this, by the way?
This would have been 2010 through to 2014, 15.
That's huge.
Yeah.
At that point in time.
Yes. So this was, this was kind of the birth of like the social media influencer. There was no brand deals. There was no TikTok. There was no hashtag paid sponsorship on posts or anything like that. This was
just like monopoly money.
Yeah. And it was just, and I remember at that age, I wasn't asking for cash for posts. I was like, I'll take a concert ticket. I'll take some clothes. Yeah, sure. You want me to post about this? No dramas. I'd started, quite young on that, and caught the attention of Sony Music pretty early on. Again, this is the birth of social media, really. No one had really blown up from like an artist point of view either. So One Direction were making their rounds, and Sony Music didn't really know what to do with that, and who their audience really was. It was really, really unique time in that music industry. So they'd reached out, and I was doing a bit of stuff with them to help with social media marketing, which again, crazy that you're talking to a 14, 15-year-old about this. So it started with them, and then it progressed to a girl band called Little Mix. So I was on their official Australian, they called it a street team, but it was essentially, again, a bunch of 15-year-olds telling a record label how you should market this band and where they should tour and what they should do. So I was connected quite a few times with the Little Mix girls, to the point where I was in the UK a few years ago and I ran into them, and it was like they were asking me, why are you here? And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, you're meant to be in Australia. I'm like, why do you remember that? I did a lot of stuff with them, radio-based stuff, did a couple of, tours again. I worked on the X Factor tour in 2012 doing social media marketing. I think at one point I was ranked in the Herald Sun as like the number 5 biggest Twitterer in Australia.
Really?
Yeah. There's
wow.
the newspaper article sitting somewhere at home.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
I can just imagine the staff of the Lions who are going to plaster this across your desk at work now.
I'll come in, it'll be pictures of One Direction everywhere. Yeah, so that's where it all kind of started, and that's when I kind of wanted to go then into the music industry, because I was going to concerts every weekend. I was camping out to meet boy bands and celebrities and doing all of that. So yeah, that all started, and then I kind of dropped off a little bit in COVID years, and I deleted everything, much to my now dismay that I did. But I actually
a lot of commercial value in $250,000 followers.
yeah, not so much now in my 5,000 Instagram followers, but that's still substantial. So yeah, that kind of happened, and then went to uni. Kind of realised that the music industry wasn't exactly what I wanted it to be, which I thought was a very mature decision at 18 to realise that I wanted a stable career that wasn't going to be a job here, time off, a job here, time off, a job here. I didn't want that, and I wasn't also keen on working in an agency format. So yeah, kind of stepped back from studying, wanted to do a bit of travel, and the only way that I was going to afford to do that was working. So that's when I started the pet travel. So yeah, I was a pet travel agent essentially, moving cats and dogs and spiders and goats and pigs and everything around the country.
So we've gone from one direction to moving pigs around the country.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep. It went from the glamour life down to literally the shits. So did that for about 2 years. And then decided that I wanted to go travel a bit. So I headed over to Croatia and Greece. So I quit my job and I was like, I'll figure it out when I get back. So went over to Croatia and Greece for a bit. Came back to Australia and started working just a casual retail job. And that's when the opportunity popped up at Cricket Australia. So my first ever job in sports was a state accreditation coordinator. So essentially for the 2019-2020 cricket season, I was working with the Renegades and so I was doing the international test as well. So I was heading out to GMHBA, Marvel Stadium, and then the MCG for Boxing Day tests, getting to Boxing Day at 4 a.m. to set up with my little printer and print off people's day passes and, their seasonal accreditation and things like that. So did that for the duration of...
We just crossed over, but...
Yeah, we literally... ships passing in the night.
Yeah, literally. That was my last summer of cricket.
Yeah, so I would have started then. And then COVID obviously then hits. And I loved working in cricket. I loved the people. I made some of my, still to this day, best friends. So my mate who works in Big Bash, we lived together for a year.
Who's that?
Emily Stewart.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So Em and I lived together for a year and we met through, just by happenstance. I think I worked her first ever, so she was the event manager at the Stars for quite a few years, but I worked her first ever match day out in Moe.
Cool.
Yeah, and that's how we met. And so she, to this day, is still saved in my phone as MCV Stars. She'll never get her full name back. That's what she is in my phone. Yep. So yeah, we did that for it would have been about 4 months, if that. Probably started in like the November, ran through to the February, because then I also did the ICC Women's World Cup in 2020.
Where were you stationed for that?
Junction.
Oh,
we would have. We've probably met before this all happened, but the amount of people, my eyes would just glaze. I'm like, yep, what do you need?
Yep. No, New Zealand played a few games there. So
yeah, right, okay. So yeah, did all of that. Even that was the year that we had the really bad bushfires. So they did.
We had the bushfire appeal match.
Yeah, the bushfire appeal match. Yep. I met Sachin Tendulkar and I had no idea who he was at the time, and I'm watching grown men drop to their knees, and I'm like, this is something special. I would have done that for Harry Styles. It's great. But that's how I kind of got into it, because I could understand from like a fangirl point of view that, people actually really care about this. There's a reason they care about this, and that's when I started getting into it. And then obviously COVID then hits and the world shuts down, and sports that was kind of this, it was never going to stopped. And Melbourne shut down, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, that's gone from being, a reliable, again, I wanted that, consistency. Cricket season happens every year. Footy season happens every year. And then, the world shuts down. I'm like, oh, cool, no one's got a job now. So when the world shut down, I then went and got a job at Laminex. So I was selling bench tops and doors.
So we've gone one direction.
Yep.
To shipping pigs around.
Yep.
To international cricket.
Yep.
To now what? Furniture.
Yep, pretty much. Yep, I was selling bench tops, doors and cabinetry. I excelled at that. I was, again, really good at it because I could talk to a tradie and, have a laugh and that kind of thing. So I went from, just a general consultant to being in their retail team. So I was working with the likes of Bunnings and Home Hardware and managing all of their accounts across the country. Obviously not for me. Had the best time though, like the greatest people there, but it just wasn't for me. And I, didn't love it. And I was at home. This was when everyone was working from home. So, you'd get up, work, go back to bed, get up, work, go back to bed. It was just not it. And And then an opportunity came up at another pet transport company, and I was like, yeah, I'm good at this. I enjoy this. I like animals. And so, I went and worked at another pet transport company, but this time doing international. So cats and dogs all around the world.
I feel like a lot of people are having their, mind. This is even an industry that exists.
It is multi-million too.
Wow.
Multi-million. It was insane.
People love their pets.
Yeah. They do. I remember, like, to this day, the last job I'd ever done was a 3 whippets to South Africa from Melbourne, about 20K.
Wow.
And I just...
One way?
Yeah, just one way.
Oh my God.
Just to move over there, just 3 dogs. So it was the best though. It was so much fun talking to people about their animals and that kind of thing, bring my dog into work and do that stuff. So loved it. And then again, my cup wasn't full and I knew what I wanted to do. And this would have been 2023. The world is reopened. Sports is back on. I'd moved out into my first house in Flemington, so I lived directly over the race course. And then I had, during the year, had decided, you know what, I'm a train ride away from the MCG. I'm just going to buy myself a membership to the footy. And so, I'd take myself, I'd pack up, a little container of like homemade dumplings or something, and I'd just be sitting at the footy by myself, earpods in, listening to the commentary, watching footy.
Did you have the thermo as well?
Yep.
With the hot chocolate or something?
Yeah, hot chocolate. You'd bring the hot dog, everything. And I didn't want to spend money at the footy. I'm like, I'm just going to go. And that was my afternoons. And I'd literally go by myself and just sit and watch. And, getting around the crowd. And this would have been 2020. This would have been 22 that I got into it though, because that was the year that the Pies I think they'd won 11 straight or something and made the prelim. So, it was the best year for me to really get into footy. And so, kind of got into footy. My cup wasn't full at this other job. So I'm like, you know what, that's it. Quit it. Didn't have any plans. Literally had nothing lined up. And I'm like, I just have to make this work. So had rent to pay and just, started calling around to my mates. And I said, look, help. I need something. Another little side tangent, I had a mate who was like, I can get you some short-term work. Do you want to be in the Robbie Williams movie?
Hell yeah.
So I'm a background extra in the Robbie Williams movie.
Incredible.
Yep. It's just a random, 2 weeks that I spent before Cricket Australia had a short-term contract open up as the receptionist at Cricket Vic. So I went and I was like, you know what, this will fill in the time again. I've got a bit more time to apply for jobs and to call people. So I was on the front desk at Cricket Vic, would do my daily task by, 11, 12 o'clock 12 o'clock. And then I was just applying for jobs. Unfortunately, nothing had opened up at CV in that time, which was devastating for me because I loved the team there and I still do. And I still end up at their Christmas parties and that kind of thing.
Emily O'Brien leaving the charge.
Yep, as always. Yep. Frawley too, they're just a great group of people.
Yep.
And I'd applied for this casual job and I didn't really want to go casual because I'd been full-time for the last, 8 years of my professional career. But there was a casual job that had opened up at Carlton as a membership officer. And I thought, foot in the door. I'll take it. It's a little bit of a step back having, sold, multi-million dollars worth of pet travel, but I can sell a membership. That'll be fine. And got a call from the team lead at the time, which was Jake Santucci. And I remember I was in Cairns. I'd taken a brief holiday over to Cairns and I'm by the pool. And so where are you calling from again? I'd applied for so many jobs. Had an interview with them and I remember sitting down at the front desk at CV and one of the boys had come up from upstairs had come down to me and I'd never met him before in my life. And he goes, "Are you Maddie?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Have you applied for a job at Carlton?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Cool, I've just had a call from the team over there. I've given you a really good rap. I've heard nothing but good things." So I just told them that. And I was like, okay, really confused. And that was kind of how I got the job at Carlton, was just that someone that I'd never even met went out, said something really nice about me because they'd heard really good things about me. A week or two later I started at the Blues and I was there for 18 months.
Incredible.
Yeah.
You never know who is going to talk about you, but if you do a good job for a consistently long time,
exactly,
then you get this sort of...
Exactly, yeah. People in this industry, I've never found someone that doesn't want to help another person. If it's embellishing a story a little bit, we're all happy to do it. We're all happy to do it.
Yeah, but I do love how you backed yourself and took a punt by quitting your job and saying, I'm just going to make this work.
Yep.
Because I do find that there are a lot of people that are perhaps comfortable in their current job at the moment, and they might apply for a couple of jobs a week and they might, work on their resume a little bit, but, they're comfortable enough that there's nothing really pushing them hard enough to make to do the things that they need to do to make the jump.
It's a massive shift though as well, that mentality. I don't know what it is psychologically that does it, but, I think even when I still had my job, again, same thing. I'd apply for a job here, I'd apply for a job there, or, I'm comfortable enough that I'm not just going to throw my hat in the ring for anything. Whereas, no job, no income, we're on here, so we've got to do it. And you just apply for everything, and then the offers started rolling in. I think I'd even gotten an offer from Golf Australia for a women and girls community officer or something like that, just a sport that I had not a lot of interest in, still to this day would not have a lot of interest in golf, but, just threw my hat in the ring and got the call up about it as well. So, just sending it. That's the best advice I could give.
Yeah, I mean, I've been through it as well from a business point of view where it's like, I have no choice but to make this work.
Yeah, it's now or never.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back to another office job that I don't love. It's just,
Exactly. But it shows you how hard you can work when you are forced to.
Absolutely.
Like I look back at when I was working at Cricket Australia and I still feel like I did a good job and worked my hardest. But then when the pressure was really on.
Yeah.
And you can't go to the shops unless you make this work.
Exactly. You don't want to
become
be
a different person.
Yep. You're not eating 2-minute noodles. You want to at least have something in the cupboard. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You're not in a state of confusion as how to spend your time. Should I go to this party? Should I hang out with my friends? Like, nah, I can't do anything right now. I'm just working.
Yeah. I've got to get this done. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Knowing what you know now about career decisions, because you've made a few of them. More than most by 28.
Yes.
Are there any sort of guiding principles that kind of helped you make the right decision at each point in time?
Gut. It sounds really stupid, and everyone says, trust your gut. But every decision, every kind of minor shift in my career, I've never seen anything as a step back. Going into a casual position as a membership officer, although on the resume, it looks like a step back. That to me was never a step back. It was just this is just another opportunity. I'm going to sidestep here. I'm going to leap over here. I'm going to take 10 steps back to then get 20 steps forward. Everything has been with my gut. Apply for the job, figure it out later. I applied for the job at Brisbane 4 weeks before I moved. I was just I'm just going to give it a crack. What have I got to lose? What have we got to lose? We're a speck of dust on a big floating rock, essentially. What's the worst that could happen? So, yeah.
I love that mentality. Who have been some of the biggest influences on your career?
I have, obviously, my mum. She, again, from day dot.
What's your mum's background?
Mum works in pet transport.
Oh, cool. There you go.
That's how I initially got into pet transport. So, she's been doing that now for, 15 years.
In a sales role as well?
Yeah. So she's been team leaders and operationals and back end stuff. So but she's been fantastic. Just has given me every opportunity possible. I lived at home until I was 23, and she never made me feel bad about that. She was just do what you got to do. If I wanted to go overseas, she's don't worry about paying board. You want to do this? Don't worry about it. It's fine. We'll sort it out.
Yep.
She just has given me every possible opportunity that she could. Career-wise, I had an amazing mentor in a guy called Demario Hawkins. He wasn't my direct manager at Carlton initially, but I stepped under him when I moved into the reception coterie role that I had over there. He was basically second in control to the GM, and he was just the greatest human being alive. Would chat to you about anything, would put you forward for anything. You wanted to go to this seminar, go. We'll find someone to cover you on the front desk. That's fine. And he had grinded his ass off. So he's from the States, and he came over, was working at the Storm for a bit under a guy called Dan Geese. So worked under Geesey, was over there. Geesey moved over to Richmond, was like, you're great, you're coming with me. Went over to Richmond. Then Geesey moved over to the Blues, and he's like, you're great, you're coming with me. So, D was fantastic, and he's now actually back in the States working at the Miami Dolphins.
So that's where you'll be next, I guess.
Yeah, I guess at this point, honestly, yeah. So he does, so he's at Hard Rock doing, the Dolphins and then the Miami Formula One stuff.
Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah, and Miami is where the FIFA World Cup head office is at the moment too. So it's all happening in Miami right now.
Yeah, massively. So, Dee's just been amazing. And even to this day, middle of the night in the States, I just randomly will get a phone call from him or get a text message. How you going? What's news? Tell me about it. And so he's just been fantastic to bounce off and, get ideas from. And, even because we're both now kind of in that elevated sales stage. So, I'll talk to him about what the Dolphins are doing, and it's like, well, what can we implement over here at the Lions? So it's a really unique relationship, that one.
That's cool. So you're learning from the NFL to do your job in the AFL.
And that's it. Like, I mean, although we're such different codes and we've got such a different supporter base, we're all sports. Everyone loves a sport. You can pick and choose and you can cherry pick certain things. I went over to the UK in October last year and I caught up with a lady called Georgie from Arsenal. She was originally from, she worked at Essendon and then she was over at MCC, I think, or the AFL, one of those, doing ticketing, and then got picked up by Arsenal a couple of years ago. And so we sat down and I was talking to her about women ticketing. So how over in the Premier League, they will sell out, Emirates Stadium for a women's game. And I'm like, how? How do you do that? Whereas, sometimes we struggle to get 3,000 to 5,000 people at an AFLW game. So where is the disconnect between those and what can we cherry pick from what the Premier League's doing to bring that over here to get more people over? So, it's also fascinating.
Other than asking Steph Catley to swap codes, what are they doing?
Well, so I find it really interesting with soccer. They treat the products the same. There's no disconnect between value of product either. You go to a women's game and you could be spending, $150. $300 for a ticket to a women's game. People sometimes would shiver at the thought here. Sometimes it's stretched to spend $15, but they just flog it and they invest good money in their talent. And obviously it's a bit more of a developed game where, the AFL currently is now getting a lot of quality players through. So, those 18-year-olds that are coming through in the drafts and, over the next 10 years, you're going to get the talent pool that, will justify the high ticket cost, and you'll be then selling out places like the Gabba and the G and Marvel and Adelaide Oval and continue to do that. So it's all really exciting.
Yeah, amazing. Let's talk about. I'd love to hear your advice again for people who are thinking about what to do next. Obviously, Trust Your Gut has kind of helped you enormously. But if someone came to you with like a fork in the road situation, like what advice would you give to them in terms of what to look for when they're choosing their next opportunity?
Yeah. I've spoken to quite a few people in regards to this, especially having done a lot with our TAFE program. So dealt a lot with the Carlton College of Sport and then a lot with the Brisbane Lions Institute of Sport. So I get a lot of TAFE students through and we kind of have those conversations and I'll go out for coffee with them and sit down with them at lunchtime and it's like, well, what are you doing? They have this big vision. And it's like, well, how are you going to get there? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, why don't you know? They're like, well, who do I talk to? And I'm like, all right, so who's got that job now? Talk to them. What's stopping you sending a message through to a player wellbeing manager? What's stopping you reaching out to a corporate sales executive? What's stopping you reaching out to a CEO? If they've got the time, they'll sit down with you. 9 times out of 10, as I said, we all want to help each other out and we love talking about ourselves. That's the reality of the matter. It's fun to talk about yourself. So, I've encouraged them to pick up the phone, send an email on LinkedIn or, find someone somehow and get in front of them and ask them how they do it. It's the only way a lot of us are going to know how we get anywhere. You talk to a CEO and it's like, well, what was your journey? Okay, you can kind of then go and recreate it. Yeah. Every CEO is going to have a very different story, but, you can take bits and pieces from a bunch of different people and then fork your own journey and, in 10, 20 years' time, you'll be in their seat.
I think a lot of people as well are so caught up with trying to figure out exactly what they want from their career and that be the only thing so that a very clear path appears for them. When in reality, and you're an excellent example of this, is that might change very many times.
Yes. It's you got to keep the blinkers off because as soon as those blinkers are on, you do limit yourself. I didn't necessarily want to step into a call center membership role, but if I hadn't stepped back into that role here at the Lions, I never would have got the opportunity to be one of 2 corporate sales executives. Yep. So I kind of again took that side step. Although I didn't really want to, I took that side step and did it for 12 months and then now I've gone 10 steps forward. Yeah.
But one of the things that I admire a lot about your journey is that even if you thought, the next horizon in your career may not be the end goal, it sounds like that didn't slow you down from going your hardest to get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But with the information that you had at the time and what was going on, it's like, this could be the next best thing. Well, let's find out.
Yeah, exactly. Again, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah. Exactly right. And then, more information enters your brain. You're like, oh, actually, you can do this. I didn't know about that. Well, I didn't know about pet travel. I didn't know about, sales. And then you end up where you are now. But You have thrown a lot more darts than I think many people would be prepared to throw. And as a result, it sounds like you're in a place where you're much clearer of where you want to go in the future.
100%.
What does the future look like for you?
That's always a great question, isn't it? And I got asked this in my interview for my current role, and I turned to my GM at the time and I'm like, I don't know. And that's it. Like, 2 years ago, if you'd have told me I was going to move to Queensland, I'd have laughed at you. I was very comfortable in Melbourne, and I was very comfortable with the trajectory of my career at the time. I think I'd love to see myself in some kind of mentor position, whether that's a general manager position or potentially even moving into the education sector and dealing with up and coming sports educators. I love the corporate side of things, so I love my clientele base and I love that. And I'm getting a bit more exposed to the partnership side of things and how that all works, and sponsorships and those relationships between club and sponsor. So potentially it's stepping into a partnerships exec role or as I said, moving into a general manager position in the next couple of years. But that's the luxury of sports, isn't it? Like, it's so different everywhere, and every club is so different as well. The specific positions they have, might be totally different to what's available at the Lions. So, yeah, I don't know for sure, but I definitely want to leave some kind of impact wherever I go.
Well, with the trajectory you're on and the amount of energy you're applying to it, I wouldn't bet against you.
Thank you.
Last question for you. I want you to picture either a friend or a colleague in your life who is perhaps not quite fulfilling their potential. You know them well enough that they've got all the tools inside them to do what they need to do, but they're perhaps, not getting where they need to be.
Yep.
If you could grab them by the shoulders and just shake them, what would you want to say to that person?
Put yourself out of your comfort zone. If we continue to step in our comfort zone, nothing will ever change, nothing will ever be different. And no one will look at you. People will hire you for your unique ideas. You'll throw 100 things at a wall and one might stick. Throw 100 things at the wall though. That one will stick. I think furthering your own education is super important, whether it is going through a tertiary course or taking a day seminar or talking to someone or jumping on LinkedIn or reading a book, listen to a podcast. Further your own knowledge as well. It's going to do you a world of wonders. That's why I went and did a diploma of leadership and management. I've managed teams before and done things like that, but I just wanted that little bit extra behind me to then, push me a little bit further. I think those are the two things that I'd shake into someone.
Well, that seems like a great place to wrap it up.
Thank you.
Have a great time in the grand final tomorrow.
Fingers crossed.
Wishing you all the best.
Thank you. Fingers crossed. Hopefully when this goes live, we'll have another flag under our belt.
That's it. Enjoy.
Thank
you for coming on the podcast.
No, I appreciate you having me.
Hey guys, quick one. Are you either A, dreading going back to work tomorrow, or B, on a mission to fulfill your potential and get there as quickly as possible? If so, then you need to apply for the SportsGrad Method program. The program is designed to help you get a full-time job in sport as quickly as possible, and inside it, I distill the lessons I've learned from asking over 300 people how they got a job in sport. I'm talking professionals from the AFL, Premier League, cricket, NBA, Olympics, you name it. And I've combined it with the methods that not only got me hired by Cricket Australia before graduating, but also helped me double my salary during COVID. SportsGrad has helped people land over 700 roles in sport, and this program takes the guesswork out of an industry where most people think you need to get lucky. To apply for the SportsGrad Method program, head to www.sportsgrad.com.au/program.